Man, it's nice to have the spring weather out again, hey? It's, you know, it's its own form of inspiration. All winter long, you know, I'd be doing these intros to these videos. Well, maybe not on this channel, but on another channel. And, you know, it was always a drag. That bird better not be trying to attack me, those buggers. These frickin' birds out here are a menace. And you know why that I'll walk around with my cats every once in a while? Frickin' birds are a menace. They get in like groups and attack you from above and they're all squeaking, squeak, squeak, squeak. Man, it sucks. I'm just gonna start walking this way back to the house because I'm a pussy. Anyways, it's time for us to get the structure together. And one of the interesting things about how this structure goes together is that I've seen many companies do this in various different ways. How do you get your structure square? And how do you get your walls to glue together in a very secure way that don't bend over time or this and that and the other thing? Now, the way the walls were just constructed in this kit, they're really basically 3 layers of wood and cardboard. So they're pretty stiff. If you glue them and clamp them straight and allow them to cure completely, they'll probably stay straight. So it's not necessary to brace the backs of the walls. But if you've been watching in the previous videos, I braced my walls. Why is that? I brace all my walls. I don't care what anybody says. I build models the way I know that they will work. You just have to, just consider this. Back in 2008, I was given a model for free to build on my blog. I told them I was an amateur. I told them that I was gonna take a ton of pictures and I was gonna put it on my blog and every forum that I could find. Now they sent me the kit, and the first thing I did was follow the instructions where they didn't really tell me to brace the boards. And I had this small little dormer window, and it was all cut out, the window was cut out of it, and there's these 2 little sides on each side. I put some ink and alcohol stain on it, and it curled up into a circle, and when I tried to pull it apart, it cracked and broke in 2. So, ever since 2008, when I was an amateur, I've been bracing wood. And ever since then, I have a straight wall every single time. You're watching Essentially Wood, a show about...
Oh, come on. It's just a show about everything you need to know about building with wood.
However, let's get back to having a square building. I've seen a number of manufacturers do this in a couple of different ways. You know, some of them like to make what looks to be the inside framing, you know, and that's the second layer that keeps everything straight. In the corners, they never really do nothing. Maybe it's a slot and tab situation where you do it and it kind of gets it square. But I've never seen somebody do something so simple yet be so effective than what is in this kit. And I think that what I've learned building this kit today is that I'll be doing this for the rest of my career after. We'll be bracing the walls and using little square cardboard slots to make the building square. So in today's episode, we're going to put the walls together and put the roof on the front of the... Actually, I think it's the rear wall. It looks like the front wall, but it's the rear wall. So we're gonna finish up the rear wall and get the structure together. Today's video is brought to you by Pelican Focus. Pelican Focus is the photo stacker that makes the most clear photographs that you could ever make. To get 20% off a lifetime license of Pelican Focus, go to modelersguild.com/HF. And we thank Pelican Focus for their support of our show. Now, like I said before, I've built these kits and I've seen a number of different ways to make them square. But as you can see, there's a piece of card beside the end, or attached to the end wall, and that card is, I use crazy glue to glue it in place, and what that is doing is making sure each corner has a 90-degree corner. And these cards are placed in 4 places, top and bottom. So what I did was I glued the card to the end wall so that it was perfectly centered with my crazy glue. Crazy glue is a really good adhesive for card. White glue has a lot of moisture in it and will deform your cardboard on you if you place too much on it. Using my crazy glue, I glued the card to the middle bottom section of the end wall. This made it so I could attach it to the side walls perfect and also have total control on how the corner is glued together. Often on a wood building, your corners aren't going to fit nicely, so having these cards on the end wall actually goes a long way to allowing you to tighten up those corners properly. It's actually remarkable how simple this technique is in the construction of this kit and how effective it really is. Now, I have a lot of bad habits when it comes to building models. One of the good habits, though, that I've come up with is placing a little blob of glue on the inside of a model where it will disappear, because my workspace often gets piled up with these little glue spots, and it's just a pain in the butt to keep those glue spots from tarnishing my model. And speaking about tight corners, I picked up these tools a few years ago. These clamps, brass clamps, and they work fantastically if I had one more hand, but they do work fantastic. Another point is you might notice the glue squeezing out on the corner. Use your nail to try to collect that up. Maybe use your razor blade to get in there and try to scrape it up a little bit. But if it doesn't come out, wait till it dries, because it'll be a little bit easier to scrape out when it is dry. Now, up until now, you had to take my word for it that these cards worked great, but look at it on the bottom here. Like, you can't dispute my tip here. These cards put onto the bottom of this building is outrageously simple, and it effectively does this job perfectly. Can't believe it. I have been sharing my scale modeling experiences on YouTube free of charge for over 2 years now. In that time, I've invested a lot of time and money into this project. Projects like these need funding to grow, and I'm asking for your help. Patreon.com/Ron Pare. Now let me make one last point about these walls. Whereas I use crazy glue to glue the card pieces into the model, I'm using white glue to glue the corners together, because white glue is more suitable for wood than crazy glue. And because I'm using these clamps, I am able to use the slow drying white glue effectively for this job. Now, if you're following along with your own build of the Shipyard at Foss, The instructions tells you to finish all the walls completely, and I even said that earlier. But, you know, you don't always have to follow everybody's directions. I decided to add all the details to my walls after the walls were put together. Only because every time I put my walls down, I'd be placing them on top of each other and stuff like that, and things could break apart. And now that the walls are put together, I'm not going to be piling them up on top of each other, maybe breaking some pieces. Now you're paying attention with what I used to glue my card to the building with, right? So, of course we used crazy glue because it glues well to card. Now we're putting in the rafters underneath the walls, and what I should have done was painted this underneath area gray before I put this card on. I actually forgot. You know, you get too wound up about building these things, and sometimes you forget doing important things. I do it too. Now I have a serious question to ask anybody who is building this kit or built a structure with these rafter ends underneath the cardboard. You started out using the template, right? And then after the fact, you just started cutting things out with a pair of rail snippers. Well, at least that's how I did it. And, you know, the end results? Well, try and prove that I hacked it together. I used grimy black to paint the card roof. Next, we started applying our sunshades for our windows. What are those things called? I installed some on my Pepe's house. I can't remember. But I'm installing these again. But this time we're using crazy glue because crazy glue works real good in a situation like this. Now, you have to be careful though. Some crazy glues have baking soda in it or some kind of substance that makes your windows fog up white. I found that only some crazy glues do this, and just try to pay attention. If you have a crazy glue that does it to your windows, put it to the side and remember which kind does it. Now, also, I painted my awnings. That's what they're called, awnings. I painted my awnings a rust color because I wanted to have kind of a monochromatic look. My trim's going to be brown. It's just the look that I wanted. So I wanted to add some variation. So I put some of my MIG washes on the awnings to give a little bit of variation, and the type that wouldn't go away after it dried. The MIG washes are an oil, so that stays around. And next, I just put some of my tar paper on. You've seen this done a million different times, and if you haven't seen it done, you could see it in your mind's eye pretty clearly. Just do it cleanly, and even if you do have some glue on in the end, I've got a tip for you. I have never added tar paper to roofing without it bleeding out glue all over the place and putting shiny spots of glue everywhere. It sucks. It doesn't look good, and it's happened every single time I've ever used this stuff. So I've come up with a great way to hide all your mistakes. And if you can't do something with the perfection of a robot, just be able to fix your mistakes, and then you can say no big deal. So what is it that I do? Before I add chalk or alcohol or any type of substance to the top of this tar paper, I want to cover up my glue marks. And I want to do it after all the trim, the capping tar paper is put on and everything. Even my nail holes. I'm putting my nail holes in with my little homemade tool. Don't buy one, just make it. But after this is done, we want to add our brush on dull coat. And I want to do it in a very thick way. Not a very, very thick way, but I want to pull it out of the bottle, lightly brush off the excess, and just paint it on. Because it's going to make it look great in the end. And then when we add our chalks and our alcohol, it'll add all kinds of extra effects that we can use later. I hope you've been liking these videos. I've noticed in the analytics of the videos that there have been people posting these videos in other forums, and that's really great. I love it. Except I think those videos are being posted in the secret parts of the forum because I can't find the threads. Oh well. However, if you do post the video in a forum, go ahead and tell me where it is. And even if you don't tell me where it is, I'll be able to see it in my analytics and try to find it myself. I always like to go and thank people for sharing my stuff.